History is memory enshrined. Some might claim entomb, for history belongs to the bold, the victorious, those who are ravenous for power, no matter the cost. A craving I have manifested for centuries. I am such hunger, incarnate. And this, the history that I have won, against countless enemies, and across 1,000 blood-drenched battlefields. For I am the son of the dragon, Dracula.
Bram Stoker's classic novel created arguably the most famous character in all of literature. Yet it leaves many aspects of Dracula's history and persona only hinted at, and thus incredibly intriguing and mysterious. This series of books will fill in these tantalizing gaps and provide a more complete and terrifying portrait of one of the most popular literary characters of all time.
He had come to me with this great horror idea, stuff I had never thought of, never seen, and I love Dracula. I love vampire lore.
Our collaboration here is the culmination of our longtime friendship and an incredible synthesis of our two lengthy and accomplished careers in comics.
The joy of working on it is absolutely on every page, every panel.
This isn't yet another retelling of the novel in comics form. We're bringing you the never-before-told stories behind the story, the sinister tales hidden in the shadows of the original legend.
The heart of Dracula, blood that flows in his veins. It's as much in telling a story as the blood he spills. And in this, he spills a lot.
I'm not exaggerating when I say that this project is the magnum opus of everything we might have hoped it could be.
This is the journey of my brutal life and bloody undeath down through the centuries. The stories never cease. To defeat the godless, one must become godless. Dracula, Book 1, The Impaler.
Hey everybody, welcome to Independent Comics Showcase. I've been so excited about this show because two of my favorite creators are on, and they have a project, which you just saw, which is right in my wheelhouse. If you've been watching or watched during October, my 31 Days of Monsters series, which we do every year, you know how much I love this. These two guys are great. I've known Kelly for 30 years. We work together in the Bat offices and stuff. And I've been an admirer of Matt's, ever since he did, I think it was called Batman Monsters. But I'll double check when he pops in here. Let's bring them in right now. As a matter of fact, Mr. Jones.
Hey, how you doing, Graham?
It's good to see you, brother. And Mr. Wagner.
In my cave.
In his cave, as every vampire should be. Well, did I get that series right? Was it Batman Monsters?
No, you're kind of melding two. One was the first one I did was called Batman Faces. It was about Batman versus Two-Face. But then later I did kind of a modern revamp of two old Golden Age tales.
Yes.
One was called Batman and the Monster Men, and the sequel then was called Batman and the Mad Monk. Both of which are from the very early pre-Robin Detective Comics days.
Yes. Bill Finger and Gardner Fox stories.
Yep.
Yeah. I love those.
Two of my favorites. Very gruesome.
Yes. Yeah.
In the days when Batman was still kind of more of a pulp hero than all the eventual comic book tropes hadn't quite developed at that point.
Right.
And so all those early characters kind of more resembled the pulp characters that inspired them.
Yeah, but you brought it up to the modern era too.
Yes,
in your version, he was still the Batman we recognize, but we used to recognize the guy that's out there now. I don't know who that is.
In fact, I always referred to it as Batman Year 1.5.
Very nice, very nice. Yeah. So you guys got a Dracula project, and Dracula is one of those iconic characters. I think, if I'm not mistaken, is the most reprinted fictional character ever.
I believe so.
It's one of only a handful of books that have never been out of print since they were first published. There's
Right.
about a dozen of them. Huckleberry Finn is one. There's a few others. But I keep talking about in our various press and interviews that, to my mind, Dracula is the most famous literary character of all time.
Yeah.
You have other very famous literary characters, some of Dickens's characters, Gatsby, Scarlett O'Hara, etc. But there is literally not a single character from literature that is so ubiquitous in every culture, in every setting around the world. If you say Dracula, they know who you're talking about.
Yeah.
They have an image in their mind. They know it equals evil. They know it's a vampire. Generally, they're thinking the Bela Lugosi mold, with the evening clothes and the Hungarian accent. But literally, I don't think there's a person on Earth aside from some isolated tribes that don't know who Dracula is.
Yeah, I think Frankenstein's the same.
Yeah.
It's a character whose title is ubiquitous with the character itself.
Mhm.
It's like you said Dickens, but except for, well, actually there's trying to think if there's any Dickens stories where the character's name is the title.
Scrooge, Oliver Twist.
Yeah, but Scrooge isn't the name of the book.
Scrooge isn't the name of the title. Yeah. But Scrooge, I would say, is Dickens' most famous character, most likely.
Right. But from
I think Matt also hit it on the head that Dracula is really the first supervillain too.
Yeah.
The true first supervillain.
True. Yeah.
Because think about it. He's this. He's got supernatural powers, but more importantly, he's got a scheme.
Yeah.
He's trying to come and invade an unsuspecting country and bring his evil plans with him.
Right.
I mean, certainly you could probably say there are other characters in mythology like that, but I think literarily he's the first.
Yeah.
And Stoker's novel is so engaging. I've tried to read Shelley's Frankenstein half a dozen times, and I get about halfway through of it, and I'm like, just there's something about the way she writes it. I mean, it was written earlier in the
her language still has an archaic quality to it, whereas this is more contemporary. Part of that is the fact that it's an epistolary novel. It's written in a personal voice, in letters and journals, in newspaper clippings, So there's an immediacy there that isn't there in Shelley's.
I need all the Wrightson illustrations to get through it.
Yeah, exactly. That was just what I was thinking too, man. You need Wrightson to help shepherd you through.
Wrightson got me to read the whole thing because I knew every few pages I'd get one of those great drawings.
Yeah. So you were just reading those words as penance, so you could get to the.
I admired Wrightson so much for how well he illustrated it. I admired even more that he read it in such contextual detail. With illustrations. And I told him that. I said, man, you're a stud to do that.
Yeah. Now, Matt, when you decided you were going to write this story, did you reread Stoker's novel?
Oh, several times. Yeah. I've read it many times over the years. I mean, any fan of the novel, you talk about how what a great character Dracula is. Yeah, he's magnetic, he's compelling, and the strange truth of it is he's not on stage very much in the novel. Aside from the opening sequences where Jonathan Harker goes to his castle in Transylvania, once the action moves to London, he's hardly on stage at all. You see him extremely briefly, and yet, again, as I said, he's so magnetic, so compelling. And
the scenes where you do see him,
right. I keep bringing up this analogy of Dr. Lecter in Silence of the Lambs. Completely steals that movie. He's on screen 16 minutes.
Is that right?
Yes, 16 minutes out of that 2+ hours. Yep, that's kind of shocking to think of, isn't it? Right?
Yeah.
So I always wanted more Dracula. And like I said, it's an epistolary novel. It's in very personal voices. The voice that is missing is Dracula. So we decided that we were going to take that this was going to be his story told by him, his personal history,
Ah, okay.
So the narration is him. We keep the epistolary style. There's a first person narrator, but it's him writing a journal of his life, as the trailer said there. And boy, Kelly, never get tired of watching that trailer, do you, man?
I don't either. It came out so much better than I could possibly hope. Yeah.
He says, "This is the story of my brutal life and bloody undeath."
My bloody undeath.
But as a little bit of background here, you talked about how long you've known Kelley. I've known Kelley about that same amount of time, about 35 years. And we had always kind of bandied back and forth. Oh, we really got to do something together someday, dude. And we both knew we meant something big, not a one shot, not a one off. You know,
I had always thought that Matt meant like I have this Batman thing I want you to do. I had assumed Batman. So when he came,
well, it's a natural assumption, right?
Yeah, it was, and I just assumed he was going to do something like that when we spoke. Not that it had to be that; it would either be Batman or Grendel.
Mm-hmm.
And I assumed it would be, and when I spoke to him, I probably thought 60-40 Grendel. And I went, well, that's great. Either one are great. I'll handle each. And when he said Dracula, man, it was like, yes.
And the way that came about was I had posted something on Facebook, and Kelly responded with that same old echo. We really got to do something together someday. And I contacted him. I said, dude, are you serious? Because I've been brewing on something for decades now, and I think it's the perfect thing for us. And you know, as he said, when I said Dracula, his jaw just about hit the floor, and immediately we were just like off to the races. It was just like, oh, that's perfect.
Well, what he did was he said, we're starting with Vlad the Impaler. Now, that right there made like I went, okay, where are we going? And then he says, well, I want to tell all these stories that Stoker hints of.
There are plenty of those.
Yeah, hints at how he became this. And I'm like thinking, I know Dracula. What are you talking about? Then he starts telling me, and I went, yeah, you're right. I didn't think about that.
Yeah.
I must have said I didn't think about that 12 times when he's on the phone telling me.
Yep.
And I went, that's original, that's fresh. And then knowing Dracula as much as I do through either film or just the stories post, obviously, Stoker, I went, Matt, I think you have something utterly original here.
And I want to stress what was said in that trailer, but just to reiterate, we are not doing yet another adaptation of the Stoker novel. We're not covering any of the events that are in the Stoker novel. No. We're telling all the points in and around the novel, starting back in the 15th century and how he becomes a vampire.
Nice.
And it's based upon two short references in the book itself. You know, Van Helsing spends quite a bit of time outlining what he knows about Dracula and vampires to our little band of British heroes. And he makes two mentions that are just kind of throwaways, that Dracula, and we have to assume when he was alive, attended something called the Scholomance, which is a Romanian legend of a seminary for the dark arts, a school of sorcery, way up in the mountains on this lakeside, this haunted lakeside, and it's hosted by Satan himself. And this is already an existing Romanian legend when Stoker's writing these references. And I just thought, why the fuck has nobody ever done anything with that? That's so intriguing, you know?
Yeah.
So that's the basis of our first book. And, you know, we show how he becomes a vampire, and I was just determined it has to be all right, I said he's the most famous literary character. He's definitely the most famous vampire of all time.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So he has to become a vampire in some extraordinary fashion. It can't just be that some other vampire bites him. Mm-hmm. That's boring. And it's ordinary. And he is anything but ordinary, even when he was alive.
He's the king of the vampires. He's the king of the undead.
Yeah. So there's got to be some special way, and we got it. We have a special way that he becomes a vampire. And,
so that's something that you manifested yourself that wasn't made clear by Stoker, correct?
It's never made clear by Stoker how he became
very cool. Very cool.
Now, in fact, you know, aside from kind of placing him in, you know, a certain time frame, he talks to Harker about when he was alive, so we know he's 400 plus years old. But he might as well have always been a vampire the way he's portrayed in the book, you know.
Sure. Yeah.
And that's not the way we do it, but we have an extraordinary way he becomes a vampire.
Yeah.
But you know what? Because everybody knows Dracula, you know, the problem with a character that has been around for so long is that people get bored. You know, they say, okay, another telling of, you know, oh, he goes to England and, you know, oh, there's Mina and, you know, same old story.
Like I said, we're not telling that same old story.
Right. Exactly.
At all.
That's the key to reworking.
We won't see Harker. We won't see Mina. We won't see Van Helsing.
It's a while. It'll be a long time till we get to that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Again, this is
you got 400 years to deal with.
Yeah.
Well, and I don't think we mentioned so far. This is book 1 out of a planned 4-book series. It'll be 4 graphic novels. And in fact, we're already about halfway through book 2.
Yeah,
Kelly and I.
Oh, no kidding.
Yep.
No.
Wow.
No, it was such a good his pitch to me, and then his script was so good that it was like, I got to do this. I didn't care how it came out. I knew it would come out, but I knew this was utterly original. And whenever you come across something utterly original, especially with a character that's 140 years old, I told Matt, in all honesty, I had never read anything like this, and I consider myself quite well versed in Dracula.
Mm-hmm.
And very well versed in horror, and I knew all these things. And so when he was touching upon how he became one, why he what all the things were that made him what he was, I thought I knew that, and I didn't. And I found that very compelling. So if you're reading that and you're an artist reading it, and you know, Graham, when you get a script, when you get something that does that, you know that as a fan, you know, readers are going to do the same thing that you do as an artist. And Matt's he's a voracious scholar. I thought I was good at reading it because I'd read the novel several times, and I'm going, yeah, I never thought of that. I never questioned that. I just assumed and moved on to the next thing. For Matt to do that, I went, this guy knows what he's doing.
And of course, the challenge was to come up with something original, because so many people think they know Dracula, as you said, Graham.
Yeah.
So it has to be original, but it also has to be familiar.
Right.
It has to still be Dracula. It can't veer so far away that it doesn't seem like Dracula anymore.
So now, you guys can confirm or deny this, but the story I heard was that you were originally going to offer Kelly the sequel to the Monster of Piedras Blancas. Is that true or not?
I'd have taken that.
I know you would.
I went to that lighthouse. I know that.
I know
you
you.
Again, I have been obsessed with Dracula for a long time. I've always wanted to do something, and yet, you know, as I said, what, another adaptation of the fucking book? No. Right. And finally, after brewing on it for so long, I finally, you know, after X number of times of reading it, in fact, I'll get back to that in a second. I finally came up with my take. There's our Kickstarter. Let's stress to everybody, just a little more than 24 hours to jump in on this puppy.
Yeah, we're about done.
Yep.
Yeah, about done.
I have a version I'm getting ready to read because, of course, Stoker's complete notes for the book are still in existence, and they are housed in a small museum in Philadelphia. And I lived in Philadelphia for 10 fucking years and didn't know this.
Wow.
So I'm kicking myself.
Why Philadelphia? I mean, wasn't he from Ireland? Wasn't he?
Yeah, some bookseller bought them. I think many years ago. And
the Lord of the Rings, all the original transcripts are in Michigan.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
But there's a dude that, because, you know, Stoker's notes had a whole bunch of other characters that never made it into the book, and a variety of other sequences. And some dude has taken all of that and rewritten the whole novel, including all of what Stoker had and adding all of what Stoker left out. So I'm really curious to read that and see how that plays out.
Yeah.
Have either of you guys seen The Last Voyage of the Demeter?
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
What were your thoughts?
I had a lot of good stuff. It missed its mark at the end. I liked the whole portrayal of him as he was in beast form as he was traveling.
Right.
But, you know, I went with my son, and we both had the immediate thought, we need to see him as the Count at the end. He needs to have reassumed human form. And they don't. They have him as the same beast, except wearing, you know, some human clothes and a top hat. And it's like,
oh, really? That doesn't make sense.
At the end. No, it doesn't make any sense at all.
And I felt that as in Stoker's novel, which makes it a great story, is nobody survives.
Yeah.
Right.
They have two people that survive, and
no one should survive it. No one should survive the Demeter.
No.
Some of the good stuff, though, is my favorite bit. In fact, you know, when he takes the Demeter from Transylvania to London, he brings along very famously 50 crates of his native earth, of Transylvanian soil. And any other version you see of that, they're coffins. They're coffin shaped, right?
Right.
This, they're gigantic crates, each of which would fit probably 6 coffins inside of it.
So
he's got 50
that's smart.
enormous boxes. Of
Yeah,
earth in his
I have
room.
to say, I really dug that. I
Yeah.
feel like the boxes were like you could
You could fit a car in them.
Yeah, it was so much. It was several square feet of soil.
Yep.
Yeah. I haven't seen it yet because I've been shying away
it's a lot
from
of
it.
fun, man. I'd recommend it. You know, it's just a monster flick, you know.
I would recommend it, but I wouldn't say that it enters the level of, say, Langella's Dracula or some or the Monster Squad, actually, Duncan Rieger's Dracula.
Mhm.
But it has enough good stuff in it, and I have to say that for that end, it is fine. But like Matt, I kept waiting to just see him as the full empirical great Dracula, and then he can be a monster.
And truthfully, we didn't even need to really see him. His hand and his voice
That would have been
enough.
fine.
Yeah,
Right.
That would have been fine. I would have taken that.
Yeah. Yeah. The director directed a movie that I really enjoyed, the Autopsy of Jane Doe.
Yes, that is a great film.
And Troll Hunter.
I'm sorry, what's his name?
And Troll Hunter. You ever seen Troll Hunter?
Yeah, and Troll Hunter. Yeah.
That's fantastic. I love that film.
I do. I love both.
The direction's quite good. Again, I think the script just failed at the end, you know. But
yeah.
But you know, it's funny you should mention that, Graham, because of course, how many cinematic versions are there of Dracula? I mean, so many. And Kelly and I have talked ad infinitum about what we love about each and every one of them, and how all of them kind of miss the mark.
Yeah,
all of them aren't just right for us, weren't satisfying, you know, which led to us saying, all right, time to do our version and hit the mark that we're looking for. You know?
Yeah.
What did you guys think of the Dan Curtis version with
we've been talking about that recently too, because of the age we are. Yeah, we both love it. Because of the age we are, you know, there was no there weren't even DVDs at that point, or VCRs at that point when that aired. And so if you wanted to see monster movies when Kelly and I were a kid, you had to go through the TV guide at the beginning of the week and mark them all off.
That's right.
That was on prime time. That was a monster movie that was on prime time, its first showing. And so it was so readily available. And I love that portrayal. The screenplay's by Richard Matheson, who of course wrote I Am Legend.
Yeah, and Night Stalker, and
he wrote the screenplay of the Night Stalker too, which Curtis also produced. Curtis had a hand on all that horror stuff in the mid '70s. There.
Well, I'm a big fan of Dan Curtis.
Yeah.
So in fact, I think Winds of War and War of Remembrance are the best portrayals of World War II and all that goes with it. So, and he brought a lot of those people that he had used in these horror things into that. But I always felt that Dracula was a fabulous.
Yeah, that version of Dracula has a real muscularity to him.
Yes.
Well, what makes it work is Palance.
Yeah,
and Palance is testosterone.
Yeah, right.
It's the first time I ever saw Dracula as a feral creature.
Yeah.
I think I saw that before I saw the Night Stalker.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And
both those versions hit that mark. Yeah.
Yes. But this one was
Graham,
actually.
I don't know if you know or not, but Palance was Gene Colan's model of reference when he was doing Tomb of Dracula. If you look at his version of Dracula, he has a wide, kind of squarish face,
those
Palance,
broad
broad mouth. Yep. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah. Palance. The only issue I have with a lot of Dan Curtis's stuff is his pacing. I find the pacing slow.
They're TV. It's a TV pace.
Yeah, well, it's old TV pace.
Yes, exactly. So. And that might have to do with budget and production issues.
Yeah,
you
know? But as far as atmosphere goes, they were fantastic.
They were fantastic. That is the very first instance, though, where we find this very mistaken story motif of Dracula considering Mina to be the reincarnation of his lost love, which was later, of course, resurrected in the Coppola version, you know.
Mm.
And, you know, people who think that's an accurate portrayal of Dracula are just utterly wrong. That's not in the book at all. He has no connection to Mina. He has no attraction to her, no emotional connection. He's a predator. He is a creature of hunger and lust for power, and that's it.
And I love the fact that when I watched the Curtis version, the vampires ran at you.
Yeah. Yeah.
They didn't do any kind of seductive thing. They just
The brides at Harker, they just swarm on them like rats. Yeah.
Yeah.
they're all over Harker.
Like ravenous wolves.
Yeah.
It was really frightening.
Yeah.
And
I think that's the first time they ever showed that scene where Dracula cuts his chest and Mina is sucking on the blood to become, you know, under his spell.
Well,
yeah. that is from the book, but that's you know, in the book that's more of a rape, you know. That's
it is.
Not,
but I do
nothing
think
romantic about it, you know.
Yeah, no. I think you saw it in Dracula Prince of Darkness. He cuts his chest.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah.
Oh, did he? Okay.
Yeah. But I do, what I loved about that was the connection to Vlad as the Impaler.
Yeah.
And to Vlad, then he becomes Count Dracula.
Yeah, there's a terrific painting on the wall in the castle.
Yeah, I love that.
With him on a horse, and it's got Palance's face painted in.
You ever wonder where that painting is?
I don't know, man.
Yeah. Because
it probably went into the trash heap.
Yeah,
when production was done, you know.
Or Sylvester Stallone owns it because he bought all the Night Gallery paintings. So who knows?
Did he really?
Yeah, he bought every one of the Night Gallery paintings.
I mean, I don't know the origin of that. It could be an old print of an old portrait that they then just painted Palance's face on. You know what I mean?
Could be. Yeah, that's true.
Well, I don't know if it's a wholly original piece.
Yeah, that's true.
Wow, that's cool. I didn't know that Stallone bought all those really creepy Night Gallery.
Yeah, I loved Night Gallery as a kid.
Yeah.
But I remember reading where Stallone had come in and bought all of the primary painter's work and put it up in his house.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know that either. That's a great story.
Wow, that's cool. Did you know that Rod Serling was an airborne ranger in World War II?
Yes, he was.
Yeah. That's something.
He was a fascinating guy.
Yeah, he was.
I love him.
Yeah, really. I've seen some like YouTube videos of him talking about screenwriting with students, and it's fascinating. You know, they ask him questions, and then he poses questions to them to get them thinking. You know, about story. It's really cool stuff. YouTube is awesome. You can find so much cool shit on there, including this Kickstarter campaign. Let's go over this a little bit and show folks we've got 2,987 backers. We've got $236,803 pledged so far. Are you guys going in demand with this over on Indiegogo after this closes?
That, you know, I will fully admit here that Kelly and I are absolute noobs and idiots when it comes to this stuff. So we have people that are running the campaign for us, and that question just arose like this morning. So I didn't even know that was a possibility. So we will be. I imagine so, but I can't say for certain as yet.
And we've been inundated with like doing an artist edition with it. I mean, I must have gotten over 300 or 400 inquiries on, are you going to do this black and white artist edition? I mean that. I am,
and the answer to that is yes. But again, we're just wrapping this part up now.
Yeah,
so,
and crowdfund that.
Yeah.
And that I'll let Matt handle.
Gee, thanks, pal.
I didn't know. I thought drawing this thing would be enough, Graham. I didn't realize this last 3 weeks was like boot camp.
So first when you thought you were out, he pulled you back in.
Yeah. I used to let Denny O'Neil sell my comics.
Right?
They're at the top. This is our premium tier. We have 20 available, 20 original sketches by Kelly and I. Kelly's on the left there. I'm on the right. Those are the expensive tier because they're original pieces.
Right.
And we're only doing a maximum of 20 each.
Yeah.
Those will come in a hand decorated black envelope. They're gonna look really cool.
How will that be?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And then there's our the cover of our standard edition. It's a hardcover. We really wanted to. I mean, we really wanted to capture the essence and the spirit of the comics that we loved when we were kids. So creepy, eerie, heavy metal, and so we did this. It's 8.5 by 11, not standard American comic book size. So it's more the same size as a European album.
European, yeah.
Yeah. So there's Kelly's cover, and then right below it is my variant cover.
Very nice.
That is nice. I really like Matt's cover.
Do you have a perk level where you can get the two together? Okay,
sure,
beautiful.
Yep. And plenty of people who have done that. Yeah. So here, let's take a second to talk about this. People think they know Dracula. So when we first announced this, I got a response on Twitter. Excuse me, X. From a guy named Leslie Klinger, who is considered one of the world's foremost Dracula scholars. He has written exhaustively annotated editions of the complete works of Sherlock Holmes, and of Dracula, and of Jekyll and Hyde, and of Frankenstein. And he said, wow, this sounds really exciting. I'm very happy to hear this. And so I contacted him and said, oh, Leslie, I'm a big admirer. I have your annotated Dracula. I've pored over it time and time again. And we would love to be able to send you the book in advance, a digital copy. And, if you feel inspired to give us a quote or a blurb, that's great. If not, just honored to be able to show it to you. And he sent us this terrific quote that just made us feel like we'd gotten an A+ in Dracula 101,
Well, Matt got the A+. I just drew it. Matt actually wrote the essay for the professor.
And here, let me read it real quick. It says, Wagner and Jones have brilliantly, terrifyingly filled in the crucial gap in the history of Voivode Dracula, how he transformed from a monstrous warrior into an actual monster. Wholly convincing, totally canonical. Don't read this without a lot of garlic and crosses at hand.
Nice. Now, where does that first name come? Voivode.
Voivode is Romanian for warlord.
Yeah.
Ah, okay. Wow. See what you learn, folks, on this. I
learned a lot.
And some people might know, Vlad. You often see Vlad. He's either called Vlad the Third, which he was, or that's why he's called Dracula. His father, Vlad II, was a member of a fraternal order called the Sacred Order of the Dragon. And so he was Dracula, the son of the dragon. And he's often also referred to as Vlad Cepes, spelled Tepes.
Yeah.
And Cepes is Romanian for impaler.
Ah, okay. I always thought it was a tepish. I didn't know that it was that pronunciation.
There's a at the beginning, yeah.
Yeah, very nice.
Yeah.
Wow.
So keep scanning down there. You'll see.
Hey, you guys for this show. My goodness, I'm learning so much.
We knows our Dracula.
Yeah,
you knows your Dracula.
After this, we certainly do.
Here's some of Kelly's just magnificent art. This is a really good opportunity to talk about our colorist, Jose Villarrubia. And we first thought of Jose for this gig. I mean, I've enjoyed his colors for many years. I think he's terrific. But very recently, he was doing a beautiful restoration work on Wrightson's Swamp Thing for DC. For these big fancy editions. And he was also doing restoration on the Corbin Library for Dark Horse, Richard Corbin Library. And I've always had this opinion, which I, hit with Kelly right at the beginning. Like, Kelly, we need to get somebody that was going to color you bright, because people tend to color Kelly's art dark and moody because his art is dark and moody. And I'm always just like, no, he's already done the dark and moody. Don't add. You're just going to clot up all his beautiful line work and his very eloquent inking.
Yeah.
And so when Jose came on board, I said, Jose, look, man, we're looking for something bright. I said, specifically, we want this to look like an Italian giallo film. I said, think of Dario Argento's Suspiria, or more importantly, Mario Bava's Black Sabbath. Yeah. Black Sunday's actually in black and white. Black Sabbath.
Black Sabbath.
You look at
Black Sabbath was black and white.
No, Black Sunday is. Black Sabbath is the one. It's an anthology of 3 stories with Boris Karloff narrating.
And
okay.
Karloff's a vampire.
Karloff he's a Verdelak. in it.
Right.
Yeah, Birdlock.
Yep.
Yeah.
But you know, those two films are lit up like pinball machines, and they're scary as shit. So
Yeah. Like it's
Jose
Planet of the
totally-
Vampires, you know, with all that theatrical
Yeah.
lighting.
Yep.
Uh,
Yep.
Bob
No,
was-
Jose, and yeah, theatrical lighting. I mean, Kelly uses theatrical lighting in almost every panel. You
Yeah.
know, he's
Yeah.
like Will Eisner in that regard. You know, and
Yeah, Will.
and so Jose just totally got what I was talking about and really brought it in spades. I mean, keep scanning down there, you'll see some more.
Oh, definitely. You know, Kelly works in such contrasts. You know,
Yep.
black and white. He puts textures in, but there's very little gray tones like cross hatching, that type of stuff. So when you have flatter colors like he's putting on, but you're using color theory to bring out the shapes and forms, the stuff is magical.
It pops.
It's
Yeah,
gorgeous. You know, the last thing you need is somebody to go in there and model everything.
Yep, we
on
did
Kelly's
not want
art.
that. Yep.
No.
Yep. And you know, he gives us a few computer effects here and there where they're appropriate, but generally we said, you know, Jose, we want this old school, and he understood what that meant.
Yes,
Nice.
But,
Hey, Dr. Mass Retro Elixir, thank you for the $4.99 super chat. Hail, love all you guys. Just backed. It looks great. Matt, thanks for the Batman Mad Monk and Monster Men series you did, and Madame Xanadu series.
I
Xanadu.
love Madame Xanadu. I
Nice.
love that. Yes, I love that.
Thanks,
Thank-
Dr. Mask. Beautiful.
That was a project I didn't want to do.
Oh, really?
Yeah, my ex brother-in-law and dear buddy Bob Schreck had just moved over to Vertigo from DC proper, and he really wanted a big series, and he approached me about doing this, and he already had an artist in mind, this gal Amy Reeder, and her previous work was all very manga influenced. And when I looked at it, I was like, "Oh, Bob, I'm not seeing it, man. I don't know." And he's just like, "Yeah, just trust me, man. I think we can really make this work." And I very happy to say I was proven totally wrong. Amy just stepped up to the plate and really aced her game and did wonderful work on it. And then I was only going to do the first year of it, the first 12 issues. And Shrek came to me and said, "How about if I can get Kaluta to do the next arc?" And I was like, "Well, yeah, okay,
Hello?
that's not going to happen." He called me like an hour later. Got him.
Really?
Yep.
Wow.
So that was too good to say no to. Then I just stuck around after that because I was invested by that point. So
I love Kaluta stuff.
I do too.
God, so good.
yeah,
He was
here's
going
the
to do a
sad part.
cover. He was going to
The
do a
series
cover.
got
for-
canned around issue 30 or 32, and Kaluta wanted to do another arc, and I had a terrific idea in mind that was so fucking cool.
Mhm.
And it never came to be. And I ran into him at New York Con one time, and I said to him, "Dude, I'm so disappointed. You know, I had this great idea in mind, and I started to launch into it." And he's like, "No, I don't want to hear about a cool story I don't get to draw."
Yeah.
And he wouldn't let me tell him.
Yeah, you got to email it to him now.
Yeah, I would torture him with that.
Kelly,
Look at
remind me. I'll tell you about it someday. I
Okay,
don't
like-
want
this
to make
is
it
like-
super public,
This is like
but-
the dead man's ass right here.
yeah.
Yeah, it is.
You talk about the Impaler. There you go.
Well, you know what was good was Matt was so good at his research on the story that when he talked about the impaling, I went and did a lot of research on various things that Vlad himself had done.
Okay.
And when you do that, you do read how they did these things 5,
Pretty
6,
horrific.
and it was
Oh.
unbelievable. I didn't know the details of actual impaling. And then when you heard it, you went, "Oh my God." You know,
Right
you
up the ass, right?
yeah, well, that was how they did it.
Yeah.
Or vaginally for women. You know?
Yeah.
Vaginally for women, anally for men.
And
And
then the gravity and the weight of your body would pull you down, and slowly this state
Graham, they knew how to miss all the vital stuff, so you would suffer for 2-3
as
days.
long as possible.
Yeah.
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 So you knew that there were people who knew what they were doing, and when
When he would execute a ton of people, and in one this scene right here, he executed up to 20,000 of the enemy
20,000.
and they weren't all dead at the same time, so they
No.
would all be moaning and shrieking just continually. You know, I mean,
And
just,
it was men, women, and children.
yep.
He didn't see a difference.
He was undiscriminating. Yeah.
No, and his thing was, as Matt had said, he thought he was doing, you know, he cloaked it in the will of God, but it was the will of Vlad.
Yeah. Right. Right.
You
Yeah.
know?
Well, yeah, God had nothing to do with that.
No, God had nothing to do with it. It was the will of Vlad.
Wow, that's brutal. I mean, you know, people don't realize what crucifixion is. You
Yeah.
know, how what that does. It's just, basically you're suffocating. You know,
Yeah.
'cause
You
you're-
can't draw yourself up to get a breath.
yeah, which is why, you know, you don't have that, and they give you that little platform maybe to just push up because that's natural to give you
To torture you
all that-
even more. Yeah.
right, so that you last a little longer.
Yep.
Yeah, it's horrible. It's
Well, and he probably learned it from the Turkish Ottoman Empire because he was there for 10 years. So he
Right.
saw what they did,
7 years.
or 7 years.
yeah.
He was part of a hostage exchange program when he was 10 years old. He and his brother were sent to live with the Muslim Turkish Muslims, you know, the opposing army.
Right.
And you know, similarly, two Turkish princes were sent to live in his father's court. But yeah, the reports were he experienced a lot of brutality there.
And in all honesty,
And it would be the sort of brutality where they would try to brutalize them without injuring them, because of course they're honored hostages. You know,
right?
You can't really fuck them up too much.
No.
But
Well, you know where the term Roman candle comes from?
No.
Back in the Roman days, they would lock Christians in these cages. They would pour oil on them and light them up on fire in the
Wow.
streets.
Wow.
And that's where the term Roman candle comes
Oh, I
from.
didn't know that.
Yeah.
Well, tell them about handbags.
Oh yeah. Just we've been in these interviews, we've been uncovering some cool, gruesome facts. You know, contrary to what contemporary cinema would have you believe, generally women were not on the battlefield in the old days, but they were often sent in to count the dead enemies, right? You know, to find out what losses the enemy had experienced, right? Yeah. And of course, you know, there were piles and piles of body, and they couldn't move them, so they would lop off hands and stick them in a satchel they carried at their side, and those became known as handbags. Yeah. Yeah. And then the other thing, we were doing an interview the other night, and it was with a couple of British guys, and they were pointing out that in Britain, this means fuck you.
Yeah.
Okay, so this means victory. This means fuck you. It dates back to medieval days. The enemies, when they would capture archers, would lop off their drawing fingers. So these were the archers taunting their enemies, saying, fuck you, I'm still going to shoot you. You know?
That's cool.
And it gives you a great way to flip somebody off without them knowing it.
Yeah, right. Right. I think you're giving them the peace sign.
Yeah, exactly.
I love Churchill.
I bought my wife a handbag just the other day, and I was like, oh my God. You know, but I could see my wife actually doing that for me.
Of course, Kelly's gift had hands in it.
I could see my wife hacking off hands to show that we had won the war. Yeah.
25.
Yeah.
Wow, that's great. All right, let's continue on here. Oh, look at this. Look at this.
So this is page 1 of our book, and there's Dracula's beginning of his journal, his notation. That was what we heard there in the trailer at the beginning.
Okay,
that's pretty much a word for word reading of that script. We went around and around on this image because we knew it had to capture Dracula. But we didn't want to show Dracula yet. This being an origin story, you don't want to start off with your money shot, right?
Right.
But he still needed a money shot. And we finally ended up on this. And boy, it's just beautiful. Just a beautiful rendition.
Yeah. I love the teeth motif in the moon.
Yeah.
That's great. That's great.
No, that's true, because the other 2 pages are, as comic book art, I think they are fabulous, but as storytelling, they're wrong.
Yeah, that was our third version of that page.
Yeah.
Well, which one? This one?
The first page, yeah.
Yeah.
Kelley did a version based on my script, and it matched my script. But I called him, I was like, oh man, and I explained why. I was like, we're just not hitting the mark we need to hit here, you know. And he tried another one, and I was like, yeah, we're still not hitting the mark. Third time's a charm, because this one's beautiful.
Yeah, it worked. It worked fine. And one day when we publish everything, I've kept everything.
Yeah, we'll include those. Yep.
We'll show all of that stuff.
Yep.
But Matt was right, and I had felt that at the time, when you trust who you're working with, when you trust them, you go, because I would feel, I mean, you know, in your heart when you go, yeah, it's good. Good doesn't mean what you go with.
Good isn't right.
Correct is what you go with.
Mhm.
Right.
And storytelling is everything with Matt.
Good.
And
Yeah, I keep saying I'm the storytelling bitch on this project.
yeah, but Matt,
I'm the one that, you know, even with Jose's colors, I'll be like, looks great, except this stresses this point too much. We need to dial that back, you know. And
no, when you trust
You
someone,
sound like me, Matt.
yeah,
yes, exactly. When you trust someone, you go with it.
Yeah.
And I never, you know, Matt would always say, well, I'm really sorry. I go, don't be sorry, because I want it right.
Yeah.
I want it right. And getting it right is far more important than time it takes.
yeah. And you know, being an artist myself, I didn't want to seem heavy-handed with it. You know what I mean? I didn't want to seem imperial, you know. But luckily, I will say, whenever I'm asking for a change like that, I have a good reason and I know how to express it, you know.
Yeah. And he did. And the thing was that when someone's writing something truly authentic, with no modernity, with just, we're in 1460, I respected that a tremendous amount. And coupled with his career, I honestly feel Matt's a genius. And Matt always gets in. There are people who are geniuses, and genuinely so. So at that point, I figured, I'm feeling that already. But you get one chance to get it right.
Yeah. Yep.
And this was going to be in print forever. So I didn't give a damn how I felt. I sublimated ego and said, yeah, you're right. Let's get this right.
And you know,
That's because you're one of a kind, Kelley.
My my approach to comics, you know,
I mean that lovingly.
I thank you, Graham.
My approach to comics, you know, my own when I'm drawing them myself or when I'm collaborating with somebody like Kelley is, you know, it's basically like you're working from sketch to finish. And by that, I mean the whole book, you know, every single step of the way, you're going to need to nudge something and nudge something and nudge something, you know.
Sure.
And eventually you have to know when to step back and go, all right, we've nudged it enough. That's what it is, you know. But in this case, the nudges all work. And
let's, to be honest, I would go off the rails with Matt in other areas, and Matt would go, yeah, fine.
Right.
Oh,
Hey, let me just take a second here. Let me just take a second
awesome.
here and thank Chimera for the $2 super chat.
Oh yeah, I see it down at the bottom. Yeah, thanks, Chimera.
He has
Awesome.
backed the project. He says, "I love your Grendel series, Mr. Wagner." And thank you, Chimera. Much appreciated for your super chat and for backing this wonderful project.
Can
Everybody in the chat, you
can I
guys
jump
ought
in
to
with
do the
can I
same
jump in
thing.
with a little bit of self-promotion there? I have a brand new Grendel book coming out at the end of this month.
Oh,
Big fancy one. It is me. Last year was Grendel's 40th anniversary, and it is me completely redoing Devil by the Deed, the very first Grendel storyline, the Hunter Rose story arc. It was originally a backup feature in the pages of Mage, and it collected was only 37 pages long. So for the 40th anniversary, I said to Dark Horse, let me go back and completely redo this at age 60 as opposed to age whatever I was then, 27 or whatever, 26.
right.
And so now it's 121 pages of all brand new art and telling the same story, but of course, much expanded and much more eloquent, I would like to think. And colored by my son, who colors most of my stuff, Brennan Wagner, and the
Nice.
black, white, and red palette that has become Hunter Rose's motif over the years. So that ships on the 22nd of November, very soon.
Oh, very nice. And that's through Dark Horse?
That's through Dark Horse, yeah. And it's called Devil by the Deed Masters Edition.
Look for that, guys. Look for that. All right, so let's scroll through here a little bit more. We got our digital tier, our
Yep.
hardcover tier. That's the one I'm going to back tonight. I
Yep.
want that
There's
one.
the two covers, and then right
Thank
below
you,
that
Graham.
is the what?
I
Right
think
below
I
that's the
thank
pair,
you.
like you were talking about, Graham. Yep.
Oh wait, what's this? Limited hardcover
We
edition.
did a limited hardcover that has red foil stamping on the logo there, and has a tip-in sheet that's with art that is signed and numbered by Kelly and I. And there's 666 copies.
Yes.
Well played, boys. Well played.
For Satan, for the son of Satan.
There we go. Yeah. Satan's sons, buddy.
Yeah.
Let's see. How many of those go? There's only 44 of those left, people.
Yeah, that's gonna be gone. That will be gone. Those are nice.
Yeah. So that's a hardcover like the other one, but this has got the signatures in it.
Yeah.
Yes.
And red foil stamping on the cover.
Yep.
Okay, so it's a black and white with the red foil stamping.
It's a black and white cover. Yeah, we just decided to, again, before we had gotten all these many requests for the black and white artist edition, we just decided to show off Kelly's black and white art in a couple instances here, both in this and in the folio we're going to see coming up here.
Yeah, see, and it was impossible for me to actually send. I wanted to send a big thing of garlic, so when you got it, we're okay. But that's impossible to do.
All righty, let's see here. Yeah, you guys are interrupting my pledge here. I'm gonna.
Oh, you're gonna pledge live
I'm
on the
getting
air.
that one.
Awesome.
I'm getting that one.
Watch, Graham's pledging live.
Graham is leading by example.
Yes,
That's right.
live to
I've been
Graham.
waiting for the show. Wait, what? Add-ons payment. Let's see.
Maybe the singular ones are gone. Maybe they're only paired.
Oh no, here it is. Here it is. I got it.
Okay.
There it is. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yep, I got it. All right. Oh, wait. You know what? I better take this off because if I have to add my
Add your credit card info.
I gotta add my credit card in there.
Don't do that.
Well,
Don't do
follow
that.
through afterwards.
All right, hold on. You guys talk about Dracula. I'm gonna back it a little bit
We
here.
like Dracula.
No, if I were to say anything about Dracula, if there's been something fun that's been doing Dracula, and I'm gonna go back to it, is I did think I knew everything until Matt started doing these questions. And then I thought, other people, I know so many people that they love Dracula. And they love the whole thing, to whether it's film or the Gothic aspect of him or the novel. And in just being able to draw this, I realized that after all the 140 years or so of Dracula, or close to, that if I was feeling that, and I'm a nut for Dracula, it was going to do the same thing to them.
Yeah. Yeah.
I got it.
You got it.
I got it. So there's only 43 left.
No, see, now you can hold him back.
Well, you got the
can
garlic.
hold him back. I'm going to use all these too, Matt. All right? These are all ready for sauces and Italian dishes. So
There's I don't know if it's still there. There's a restaurant in San Francisco had been there for a million years called the Stinking Rose, and it's
the Stinking Rose.
Its shtick is it's like there's garlic in everything. You sit down and they give you bread, and there's a little pan of oil that has like 40 or 50 cloves of roasted garlic.
Yeah, there's a great documentary by the documentarian Les Blank, the late Les Blank, who used to do documentaries of Werner Herzog of all. And he did a great documentary. Criterion put it out. It's a box set of his stuff, and it's called "Garlic is Better Than 10 Mothers." And it's all about the fanatics down here who love garlic. There's a garlic festival in Gilroy.
Yep.
And it is one of my favorite. First of all, I love his documentaries, but he goes on about garlic and how the love of garlic is good because it does keep, and at the end he says something about, and it keeps vampires away. And I went, wow, that's. I waited for it. Well, come on, you got to mention vampires and garlic, and he finally.
Graham, if you've never heard of the Gilroy Garlic Festival, it's where the majority of the country's garlic is grown.
Yeah.
And every year they have this enormous festival with like everything garlic food you can imagine. Garlic ice cream.
Yes. If you drive through
pilots flying overhead claim they can smell it.
Yes.
Where is it? Is it
Gilroy, California?
Gilroy is a big area down in close to San Francisco, but south of San Francisco.
Yeah, in between San Francisco and LA. Yep.
Yeah, and when you drive through it, it is all garlic. I mean, you got to have something with garlic.
That Northern California area, you got that wonderful wine country. You've got garlic. You've got the Monster Pedras Blancas.
Yes, you do. You have so much. You have where they filmed Salem's Lot. You have where they filmed Halloween 3.
Right. The Fog.
The Fog.
Yeah, Fog.
My son's favorite. My son.
Who doesn't want to go to that lighthouse?
Exactly.
I've been there.
And hear Stevie Wayne talk to you in the middle of the night.
Exactly.
And jazz records for you.
Yeah. Oh my God, that is so awesome! I would love that.
You better have good cardiac. Good cardiac.
Well, that's why Stevie's ass was so nice.
Yeah,
she had
exactly.
to go up and down those stairs all the time.
She got her cardio.
Yeah.
They tell you before you go down to the lighthouse, it's like 33 stories of an office building. So you have to walk all the way down, which you think going down is easy, but your legs are shaking. Then when you look going up, wow, that's
and then you got to come back.
Wow, I'll tell you, I was making fun of the people who were sitting on these benches, Matt.
Yeah, taking a little breather. Yeah,
I'm going, oh, pussies.
Yeah.
Then when I came back, I said, these goddamn idiots didn't put more benches on the way back.
Yeah, going down is actually
family and I were
harder. It puts more stress on the knee joint.
Well, they made it. You can see where they had put in like these 16-inch gun emplacements because during World War II, they were afraid of being invaded.
Yeah.
So you see these huge areas with these bolts coming out, and I wondered what the hell are these? And when I came back up, they said, well, at that time, because it was an entrance into San Francisco Bay, they literally thought they were going to be invaded by the Imperial Japanese Navy.
Kelly, similarly, when my family and I were in Paris for a visit, we went to the Eiffel Tower. Huge long line to take the elevator up.
Yeah,
and you can only walk up to the second tier. Then it is all the way to the pinnacle is definitely an elevator.
Yeah,
but the elevator line was down at the bottom just to go up, and it was only 16 floors. So me and my wife and kids were like, "No, fuck this," and we walked.
We'll do it.
And what was great was like every turnaround, there's a little plaque that has a little bit of history.
Yeah.
And every one of them was fascinating. I was like, all you guys in the elevator are missing out on this.
Yeah, that's the thing that what happened at Point Reyes, where they did this. And where that lighthouse is points out in a big hunk of rock sticking way out like a prow of a ship.
A pinnacle. It's
it is a prow of a ship. Mm-hmm. So when you go out there, you feel you're really isolated.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can see the front to get the for the glass they put around to amplify it came from France.
Oh, huh.
So it's still there. It's like 200 years old, 150 years old. But they tell you all the way along that it was the first point of where they figured they were all expecting an invasion. So it's all designed for telling everyone we're going to be invaded. And you can see that. Now, I never knew that. I went out there thinking the fog, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And Drake's Bay is there where you think Francis Drake, the whole thing. But you can see where they were terrified.
Yeah.
Hey, so let's go back to the campaign here. This is our folio that we're offering. So you can only get it with a copy of the book, a printed copy of the book. But here too, Kelly and I are hearkening back to our earliest days in comics, and at that point, these art folios were just ubiquitous. Like everybody did them. All Wrightson, Jeff Jones, Barry Windsor Smith,
Marshall Rogers.
Yep.
Oh yeah. Your boy.
So these are these are 7 11 by 17 plates, and it is just Kelley's black and white art. It doesn't have the lettering, doesn't have the coloring.
Nice.
At the bottom of each page is a caption that is taken from a line from my script for that page. So it's 7. They're beautifully offset printing. They come in a really nice envelope that has gloss spot printing on the envelope, and then there's also a certificate of authentication that's signed by both Kelley and I, and that's limited to 300 copies.
Yeah.
Very, very nice.
Yeah.
That's a keeper there, guys. Somebody should snap that up.
Yeah.
You can get it with both the standard edition there and also the limited edition.
Well, I think what's great is what Matt really did was you are in 1460. It's unbiased. It's just, this is what it was, how they are, deal with it. And
Right.
it's far more, and that makes it as compelling as the actual events in it, because I think Matt's research is frighteningly good.
Well, not perfect though, because I'll point out our David Hyde, the guy that is running our campaign or promoting our campaign, he just loved the book, but he approached me about one line. I have the Turkish soldiers use an epithet at one point, and he said, "That's too modern. That took me out of it. It took me out of it for just a second." And I was like, "Oh, you're right. Okay." So I went and did some research about what the Muslim term for that would be, the Muslim epithet, and I got a better version. And I agree, it's better now.
Well, look, that's what I want.
With the times, you know.
That's
So Mother Trucker didn't work.
Mother Trucker didn't work. No.
Okay,
I
all right.
agree with that.
Had to be, Mother Camel Driver.
And what I look for,
That's the one that worked.
what I always look for in a story is authenticity, and Matt gave me authenticity.
Yeah.
It was like, hey, screw your where we're at now.
But as Kelley's always saying too, for all this scholarly approach he keeps crediting me for, we still deliver the fucking goods. You know what I mean?
Well,
it's still gruesome. It's still scary.
It's
still sexy. It's still.
Yeah, I would say that the spiritual editor was Roger Corman. Hey, that's great, Matt, but I want something naked or bloody.
I didn't need to be told that.
So to be clear, we have bloody in this story.
Yes.
Do we have naked?
Yes.
Sure. Yeah.
Yes,
All right. I got the hardcover.
It is a beautiful version of AIP and Hammer Films all mashed together.
And impalements.
Because you do want to see those things. I mean, that's what we're doing.
Right.
But Matt did it in a brilliant way.
Kelley always describes my writing as literary pulp.
Yes.
And I'm just like, perfect. I'll take that.
Yeah. There is a thing where I showed it to my wife. I said, "Would you be offended by this?" Right. I kept doing that because I didn't have anyone. I couldn't show anybody.
Yeah, we had to sit on this for almost 2 years.
And so I would show my wife, and Lynn would always say to me, she goes, "No, that's really good. That's really good." Matt would
get the Lynn seal of approval. So there you go, man.
Yeah, Lynn kept saying, "No, I believe this."
Yeah.
And I said, "Okay," because this girl is like, wow, right? And she said, "No, I like that you guys are being straightforward." And it's far more frightening to me and far more erotic to me. And I went, okay. And so I would always tell Matt, I said, "You're getting the Lynn seal approval." Right.
I mean, that's kind of core to the vampire legend is an eroticism. Now, I don't want romanticism, but I do want eroticism because, of course, the vampire is a form of lust that sucks you dry.
Yeah.
And as opposed to the Frankenstein monster, which is the lumbering thing that can't be stopped, or the werewolf, which is the consuming force of nature. The vampire is your own lust that will consume you.
Yeah.
And coupled with abuse, coupled with an abusive aspect to the relationship.
Well, I don't mind.
Our depictions here are not romantic; they're rape. You
yeah,
know?
and I don't mind explicit if it's literary.
Yeah.
If it explains my character and it is within context, great.
Right. What you mean is that it's not gratuitous.
No.
That it has
context. It's always in service of the story.
Right. And it is powerful. And so when I would read it, I wondered, well, how am I going to do this? But when I started drawing it, when I started being involved in it, it told itself. And at that point, you know that authentic and sincere is the way to go.
Mhm.
I never felt I had to call Matt and explain it. Matt just went with it. And when it was done, like I said, I did run it by my wife.
Mhm.
I said, "Would this offend you? Would this bother you?" And her whole thing, I mean, Lynn kept coming back to me saying, "This is really good." Now,
Is Lynn into horror movies too?
what happened is she's a civilian, right?
My wife is too. I think
And-
mine's even more of a civilian than Lynn is, but yeah.
And-
My wife loves classic
Yes,
horror.
and
Yeah.
I'll agree with that. And when I met her, probably the most I would say she liked Doctor Who, classic Doctor Who.
Right.
So my thing was, I did put her through the thing of Cushing and Lee films. I
Mhm.
said, "Look, you got to deal with this because this is me." But as I showed her these things, well, you got to do that. As I showed her these,
I love the honesty. This
Yeah.
is me.
this is me. As I showed
Warts and all.
Yep.
she was really impressed by what Matt was writing. And she was very impressed with the results. And she could tell how happy I was working on it.
Yeah. He kept saying to me, Lynn would say to him, "Oh, you must be working on Dracula Day. Why? Because you're in such a good mood."
Yeah, you're in a good mood. You're just happy. So I said, "Okay, what do you think about this?" And I said, "This is fairly explicit, you know, and this is pretty. I mean, these what he's doing with these girls or what he's doing in general. This is pretty explicit." And since I was keeping her up on the story, she goes, "This is fairly compelling."
Yeah,
And
my approach with this whole thing was, again, to keep coming back to that Hannibal Lecter analogy is, Dracula's charming and mesmerizing,
yeah,
and yet all of a sudden you go, "Oh wait, he's dangerous as fuck."
yes,
Like, I can't get
Right.
too close to the bars, Clarice.
Yeah.
yeah,
And
pretty
nothing he does is for your benefit.
Nothing he does is for your
Nothing he does.
No.
Dracula is all about himself. He's a selfish motherfucker
Yep.
who is satiating his own needs.
Yep.
That's it.
yes. And what Matt did that was great
And nothing else ever occurs to him.
was
Right.
it's not it. I mean, here's a guy who's thinking he's doing the will of God, but then he's also not doing the will of Satan. He's doing the will of Laud.
Yep. Yep.
And that made him awesome to me. That made him absolutely fascinating to me because you wouldn't want to be near this guy.
Mm-hmm.
You wouldn't want to, there were things he did in this book that broke my heart. And I went, "No, what are you doing?" But I read it and I went, "This is making this." I mean, you have to serve the character. And I think it's something Stephen King had said. Great writing means you kill the characters you love, or you do the things that that you don't want to do. And Matt was doing that without any kind of hesitation. And then I would bring these issues up to Matt and says, "Yeah, it killed me too.
Yeah.
It was killing me."
Your viewer there just commented that he wants pure evil Dracula. That's what we have.
Yeah,
But yet we also needed to expose the humanity, because evil isn't a concept. I mean, we codify that in characters like Satan. But evil is human acts. Only humans do evil. Animals don't do evil.
no,
And so we had to show him as a human and what his human motivations were that led to the way he is. The fact that he becomes a vampire isn't what sparks him to be what he is. He's already that.
I think the vampirism is secondary to the character, and
Well, it's his graduation.
yeah, it is. It
Yeah.
is. But what it is he surprises everybody with how good he is at this.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And when I read it, I went, "I've not seen this before." And when you haven't seen something before, and it's as it's like I'm reading 1978, 79, 80 heavy metal.
Mm.
And I went,
And that's the vibe we were going for.
it is, but it's intelligent. It's not done for simple exploitation. So it's far more impressive and to me, Graham, far more shocking.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm a big advocate for the best. Well, in fact, any genre, but most particularly horror. But no, truthfully, any genre is best when it's not about its trappings. It's about something else. It's about examining human condition.
Yeah. Yeah.
And for instance, I'll point to two other vampire films that I just absolutely adore. One is Let the Right One In, probably my favorite vampire movie of the last 15 years or so. That's a film about loneliness, and it's about the loneliness of either being a bullied 12-year-old boy or an isolated 200-year-old vampire. They connect on that level. They're both lonely, and they both see that in each other and empathize with it, and that's their bond,
Yeah.
One of my other favorite vampire things of recent years, I'm a big fan of Mike Flanagan's work, and Midnight Mass, his series he did on Netflix, absolutely tremendous. And it is not really about the scares. It's got plenty of great scares in it, but it's about faith and about the loss of faith and about addiction and about the loss of control due to addiction.
Yeah.
And he cloaks all that and examines all those very, very human conditions and problems and neuroses via this monster tale.
Yeah.
And it's a nice slow burn. I mean, at the beginning, you don't even really know it's a monster tale, and eventually it is, And,
I think what
wrote it down. I haven't seen it.
Oh,
think
you'll be blown away, dude. It's
and I will add one. Anna, I think her name is Alexandra Cassavetes, but she did one called "Kiss of the Damned."
And dude, I had never heard of that, and I just found it on Prime, so I just queued it up. I'm going to start watching it over the next couple of days. Yeah,
that one.
Kiss of the Damned.
Yeah, Kiss of the Damned. Which
she's John Cassavetes' daughter.
Yes, John Cassavetes' daughter loved early '70s horror films.
Oh,
so she wanted to make a vampire film. That was
as angry as her father.
She is as good as her father.
There you go.
Me how good it was. But what Matt did, what I really liked was, he had said to me clearly. Now you have both sides of you have God and you have Satan, and then you have Vlad, right? Vlad who rejects everything for Vlad.
Mm-hmm.
And he did it so well that
so Vlad is the ultimate atheist.
Yeah, well, what it is
He would never describe himself thus.
No, he wouldn't.
It's not that codified.
He would be someone who would say to God, "No, you don't understand your will," and he would say to Satan, "You don't get what you're doing." That's how arrogant he is.
Yeah. Again, it's not that codified. It's kind of crucial that
you have to believe.
It's kind of crucial that he can't see himself in a mirror because there's nothing there to see.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. The only thing to see is himself, and he already knows what he is.
Yeah, and I
do you explain that in the story?
No, and again, all this
that's
stuff
cool.
I'm talking
That's
about,
really cool.
The philosophy that I bring to these sort of things, the fact that I'm thinking it doesn't need to be explained. Kelly talks about this all the time, that I don't over-explain things.
It's explained in the doing, Graham.
Yeah.
In what you see, you go, that's where you trust your audience to get it.
Yeah.
Right.
And Matt never does a thing, and is probably why I was attracted to his work. And for years prior, was he respected the audience to get what it was. So when I got this, I went, man, he's totally... This is a very moral and ethical story with a very amoral and unethical man.
Right.
And that was genius. That's where when I say Matt's a genius, that's what I mean. This thing, he shows you this thing. He doesn't have to say here A, B, C, D, E, F equals this. You see it. And that gives you a much more emotional impact.
I constantly bring that up about Tarantino's films. The Tarantino's films are very moral.
Yes,
and most people wouldn't think so, but when you really go through and look at them, I mean, for instance, Pulp Fiction is all about Jules's redemption. That's the same story. he and Butch are the only ones that come out ahead, and it's all because Butch reached into the depths of his own heroism and went back and rescued Marsalis, and Jules decided to walk away from the life of a hitman. You know, Vincent, who's so charming and so you're with him so much of the way, he gets gunned down coming out of the shitter. You know, Whereas, you know, look at Django, look at Inglourious Bastards, look at Kill Bill. They're all very, very moral stories. They have a moral.
Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Absolutely.
I love that movie.
Which actually is my favorite film he's done, and I
think so too.
What I love about that one is, hey, and guys, I got to go here pretty soon. But what I really love about that one is there is no way he could have done that first. That had to be it. That had to be after his like first 7 films. You know what I mean?
No, and that he spent his time on the right people, not the wrong people.
Yep.
And who doesn't love when Rick says you or when Cliff says you can't cry in front of the Mexicans?
Yeah.
You know, that is right there.
Hey, and guys, I would highly recommend picking up the novelization. So Quentin,
I've heard it's great.
It is nothing what you're expecting.
No, I will say that his novelization is one of my favorite novels I've ever read.
Yeah, like for instance, this is a little bit of a spoiler, but not much. The whole scene with the Manson family at the end is hardly in the book at all.
Hardly.
It's mentioned, but that's not where the book ends at all. It ends more with Rick on the phone talking to that little girl actress that he met on the.
No, you get more about Cliff and his
Rick.
dog.
Yep.
And you get about the man because, like you said, fuck the Manson family.
Yeah. Right. Yep.
You know,
but they don't deserve their fame.
Yeah, they don't.
Yeah.
But the reinvention of his history here is the fact that Sharon Tate does not get killed. But the way he films it, because I saw this on a plane, and when the hairdresser invites him up, there's this. It's filmed like a horror movie. You hear the squeaking of the gate as he walks up into the dark, and then he shoots it from a bird's eye view as if somebody is going to come out. And then he gets invited and he walks in, and then the camera is stationary in that area. What I expected to hear was screams and things of horror before they went to it.
What you get is I torched her hippie ass.
Yeah,
you know, I love Rick.
Yeah,
Rick.
Well,
I'm good.
Brad Pitt's acting when he's smoked that LSD joint there at the end is unbelievable. Yeah. Graham, I don't know if you know, a number of years ago, I wrote the Zorro comic for Dynamite for many years, and we did a Django Zorro crossover that I co-wrote.
Really?
Yeah. They lined that up, and I thought, well, that's never going to happen, but okay. And about 6 months later, they called me and said, we gave Quentin all your Zorro stuff, and he wants you to come down to his house next week. And, you know, I kept saying to my wife, this is going to fall through at any minute. But no, I went down. We hung out for like 2 days, and we wrote this crossover with Django and Zorro. And, of course, the time frames don't match up. So Zorro's old. Zorro's like in his 70s, you know, early 70s.
Yeah.
And it was a blast. I was really happy with the way that turned out.
That's awesome.
Those were good books, Matt.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, very happy with it.
Those were good.
Cool. Well,
hey, like I said, I got to wrap up here.
Yeah, you got to go, guys.
I can stay all night.
No, talk and hang.
Chat, please back these wonderful creators' book. Pinned to the top of the chat. It's also in the description of the show on YouTube. If you end up watching it later on and not seeing it live,
there's only about 30 hours left.
Yep, there's 27 hours to be
27.
Exact.
Damn,
27 hours left. Back this project. You've got a great subject and you've got great creators, and you're backing independence. And that's the key right here is that you're backing guys that are trying to independently break away from the mainstream nonsense that's going on.
The reason I did this, I wanted it this way, is when I read Matt's script, I realized there's no way this is going to go through the way he wrote it. There are going to be people saying, this is great, but no. Or we got to do this. And I knew it would find a home. I knew we would get it out.
Right.
And, you know, I mean, I've been at the vanguard of indie publishing since it began, pretty much. And Kickstarter just seemed like the next logical step, like something for, and and this project with Kelley seemed like the perfect way to fill that slot.
No, I wanted to do something with Matt, but I wanted to do something with Matt this way. And there's no way I was going to have somebody call me up and say, you can't do it this way, or you can't do it that way, or Matt, I didn't want any of that.
Right.
I wanted my career to have something like this in it, and to say these things, and to be pure comics the way I think they should be.
Yeah.
So there was no way I was gonna. I mean, I
There's no gatekeeping.
I believe that much in what Matt wrote.
Yep.
Yeah. So
Outstanding.
And let me tell you, everybody, he drew the fucking hell out of it.
He did. He's Kelley Jones, so you know.
Well, you know, when I first got to do Dead Man, which opened up my career, the same thing happened where they just said, "Go off and do your thing, leave you alone for a year." Nobody got in the way of it,
Mm-hmm.
and DC was doing it to keep the copyright. That was it. You had to do something. And so I was left alone for a year. Nobody gave a damn. And then it came out and was a huge hit. And I came to the and when Matt said this thing with Dracula, it was the same thing with Dead Man, where they just said, leave you alone. And I didn't want Matt's vision at all distorted. I didn't care what that meant. I didn't care at all. I wanted that purity of it. And that inspires you. I mean, that alone is the energy.
And we got it.
Every day I worked on it, I always thought of that. That's why when Matt would say tweak this or go, or when he would leave something alone, I knew we were on the same page, because
we didn't tweak that much. You know,
no,
there was always a reason, and you know, every time I explained the reason, Kelley'd go, "Oh, you're right." You know?
No, when you're dealing with someone who has that clear of a vision and that it's genius, you leave it alone. You don't fuck with it.
Right.
All right,
well, man, I know you got to roll.
He has to go cook dinner.
I'm not.
Yeah, I know. Before you leave, Matt, I got one question for you. Favorite vampire movie? Go.
Oh, can't say it. Too many.
Yeah.
If I had to pick one, it would probably be the original Nosferatu. But I like so many aspects of every other one. I mean, I guess that's just of Dracula. I guess Let the Right One In is probably my favorite vampire.
Prince of Darkness.
But I love Near Dark. You know,
I know that for you.
So many.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. There
Prince
is a lot
of Darkness. Dracula.
Yeah, Prince of Darkness. Awesome. You know, yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
That one, you could have done 30 issues of a comic book based on that one.
Yeah.
Well, guys, thank you so much for coming on and sharing.
Yeah, Graham, thanks so much for having us. It's been a fun chat.
Yeah, absolutely it was. I hope we can do it again. I wish you guys the best of luck on this. Chat, thank you for your super chats and for your questions and for coming in here and supporting these guys. Hit that link, support it, and we'll see you next time. Have a great one. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Matt. Thanks.